Hello, welcome to this edition of the Evening Review. My name is Steven Jobela. Let's quickly look at the front page of today's Namibian Sun. Tonight in the studio we are joined by Abraham Ndumbu, who is the Commissar for Policy Research and Political Education for Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters. Welcome to the show, Mr. Ndumbu.
Welcome.
Yeah, you have been, you were a very active, firebrand young man in the 90s. Yeah. And then, of course, I suppose you had some disagreements. You were a member of Swapo, actually. And then you had some disagreements with the leadership of the party at that time. Then you were expelled from Swapo in 1996, around about there. Well, what happened? What did you do? What did you do wrong that led to your expulsion from the party?
Well, it goes line in line with what is currently taking place.
Yeah.
By that time, I was asked on behalf of the leadership of NANSO affiliated to Swapo at that time to withdraw the statement that we have issued as a leadership of the student organization, whereby we indicated that cabinet is traitors in addressing the plight of the ex-plan fighters. Then due to the fact that they say we are affiliated to Swapo as an organization and as leadership they say it's an insult to the leadership when we say cabinet is traitors.
Yeah.
However, we have outlined it clearly that looking at an exercise that have taken place, plan fighters who have sacrificed their whole life for the decolonization of Namibia and bringing cabinet to Namibia, if the first leaders elected who sit in the cabinet in 1990 from 21st March, it's because of the plan fighters who fought until the implementation of Resolution 435. And by that way, the way they were treated at the single quarters there, shooted with the rubber bullets where they were only demanding for better living condition, job and decent living. And when they were shot by the task force of police, and they say the task force was instructed by the cabinet. We say in that exercise was traiting. So this go on from time to time. A lot of young people up to this stage, they were rejected here and there, even with what had happened with the current youth in the Swapo Youth League, the Ampandas and Golaris and so forth. The exercise continues with when the leaders do not want to be challenged when they are going wrong, when they are getting off-road without permission, they do not want that to be mentioned. That's how it comes like that. However, with due respect, we did not insult our leaders. We keep on calling them Your Excellency and Honorable Cabinet Ministers and so forth all along, and we want that spirit to be kept. It does not mean that when somebody expels you or disagree with you, you have to agree to disagree. And you cannot turn it into a Pandora of fighting one another with words or so. This is war of words.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, Mr. Ndumbu here. Why would NANSO at the time involve themselves in something like that? That was not a student issue. Why did you issue a statement like that?
Obviously, that could have happened because by the time, I think that was a Deputy Minister of Job Creation, Higher Education and Job Creation was Comrade Adino Ishongwa by then, was impounded by the expulsion finders when they were demanding for job. And for your own information, higher education, you talk about students.
Yes.
And then job creation. There was no choice if we are dealing with the ministries that is relevant to the situation whereby that is the ministry that we are dealing with. Yeah. However, for your own information, I was also a plan combatant.
You were a plan combatant yourself?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Okay. So then eventually, because the issue of war veterans actually went on and on, we saw them having huge demonstrations in government, giving government strict deadlines about their plight. And eventually, a War Veterans Act was passed. The Minister of War Veterans was created. When you look back today in hindsight, do you feel vindicated that all along you were correct and that what you have demanded at the time has actually come to pass? Yeah,
that's obvious. And I'm really very much proud of that, what had happened. When you start sowing the seed, it's a very small thing, but it might grow in a bigger tree.
Yeah.
That we have got branches, leaves, and it will
and roots.
They will be harvesting and reproduction and so forth.
Yeah.
And so I'm very happy and proud, together with my other colleagues, those we together stood firm in the NANSO affiliated to Swapo leadership of that time, that we will stick to our gun, because that was there was a memorandum of understanding between NANSO affiliated to Swapo and then Swapo party that was coordinated by the then Secretary for Labor in Swapo, who was also Comrade Yeremia Mbinga by that time. He was coordinating between the Swapo office and then the leadership of NANSO affiliated to Swapo. We were, in that memorandum of understanding, we agreed that Swapo have to assist us material-wise and financially where they can, so that we can work more harder to give Swapo 2/3 majority, which was a requirement as Swapo by then could not pass and change or amend laws without that 2/3 majority. And then we were saying that, okay, we will do all what we could as young people and students to ensure that Swapo get 2/3 majority, and then they have then to look at the plight of the Namibian people entirely, so that they have to live decent living. As we know, from the onset, when this independence, those forefathers, those who begin the struggle, they like the Atoivos, when he even mentioned at the Pretoria High Court that they are making laws for us in which we have got no say. It's on that background when we read those books before we joined the struggle ourselves, while we were infants of the liberation struggle. So we see to it that there is a need, because now there was DTA, a strong opposition, and Swapo, but Swapo could not go ahead with whatever he wanted to do to implement his election manifesto. And this makes us give this mandate to Swapo to give them a 2/3 majority, And we rally the young people behind Swapo so that they can get two-thirds majority.
Yeah.
With that two-thirds majority, to improve the livelihood of the Namibian people, to grow the economy of the country, to provide decent living to the people of this country.
Indeed.
Because we all have believed that Namibia is a very rich country, despite the fact that the resources of the country is not catering for the needs of the people. And it's on those background that, on that memorandum of understanding we had between Swapo and ANSWA affiliated to Swapo, that was one of the main objectives, to give to the majority, and at the same time, to correct, to ensure, to prevent corruption within the ranks and files the Liberation Party, the Liberation Movement, which then was turned into the political party that's ruling the country.
Indeed. I don't know if our viewers can hear you properly. Your button has just moved a bit, but while you are putting it there, let me just ask you now. I'm trying to think of the kind of experience that you bring to your new party now, Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters, because after you expelled from Swapo in 1996, the following year in 1997, you led a breakaway, a NASA breakaway. I think it was called Mighty NASA. Yes. And then you also joined COD at some stage. In fact, you were in Parliament. You served in the National Assembly on the ticket of COD. What kind of experience and guidance do you bring to a young party such as Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters, given your background?
Well, as on that political background, is whereby the leadership of the Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters decided to give me that position of policy research and political education, so that I can guide our party when we are making decisions pertaining to policies, that all our policies must be in line with the supreme law of the land, that's the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia, and as well as to ensure that how to educate our members and the general public to understand the concept, why NEFF is formed, that it's formed to liberate Namibians economically, because we attain the political freedom, which was spearheaded by Swapo, and then, as per the founding statement of the founding president of the Republic of Namibia, the then His Excellency Dr. Shafuna Semnyoma, indicated it in his founding speech, that we are extending invitation to all other parties to come and set up the state machinery for the Republic. And it's on that background that a person with a sense of humor and understanding about political politics, you have them to inspire your teammate and so forth, so as to enhance the standard of understanding of politics. That's why you can see our members of parliament, how young they are, and when they get into parliament, their input, one can really recall that they are properly sharpened up. They have got the caliber and capability to move and to contribute to the lawmaking, so that they can produce economic growth, because this party is based on growing economy, creating job opportunity for the people, and make it possible for the Namibian people to live a decent living. And it's only when you got some experiences and you know the background of the liberation struggle. And if you attach this, I don't know whether you will ask me that question, if you attach this to the current scenario of what is happening now, that some people say both people must be just veterans, those who were fighting one another during the liberation struggle to decolonize Namibia. But in actual fact, there is a law in place, the act that stipulates that only those who fought consistently until 1989 to liberate the motherland Namibia will be recognized as a, without wavering, to be recognized as veterans of the national liberation struggle. But now when you say those who were fighting against, you know, the South African colonial regime have Namibianized the war, you know, in those years, 1980s, 70s, and so forth. Namibians now, they found themselves in a battlefield from both sides. People born from one mother or father shooting one another with war materials to kill and destroy one another, because South Africa have Namibianized the war. Yes. They put the war between the Namibians themselves. After the People's Liberation Army of Namibia plan pushed harder until they then forced the Boer to come to the table to negotiate. The pact that led up to the implementation of Resolution 435, which is a gateway to the independence of Namibia that we have now, which was born in 21st March 1990. So this was a clear indication. On the other hand, if the warring party that was on the other side, that was then ally of South Africa to fight or to resist the decolonization of Namibia, if there are things that were not done properly, so things can be looked at. There were things maybe like under the prime ministership of our current state president, when he was a prime minister by that time, I remember there were 36 million that maybe under the context of reparation of war that was given by South Africa. And actually, I might not exactly explain because I was not a member of cabinet. And I might not know exactly whether it was meant for what it was used. Because they are warring parties and they are having different grievances. But this cannot make both sides, those who were in Swat and Kufut, to be also veteran of the liberation struggle. However, as I mentioned, some of those things, maybe if they were warring things of that nature, we are still in a good hand because the current sitting president have more experience about it. He was the prime minister by then.
I hear you.
Yeah.
You spoke about Sam Nujoma, founding president, and the sort of founding statements that he made as we marched into a free and independent Namibia at the time. He was called a thug and a liar by one political party in parliament recently. Is that the view that NEFF has of the founding president?
No, we are a disciplined party. We are working in accordance with ethics. In Namibia, we cannot insult our parents. We can agree to disagree, but we have to reason. If we are disputing, we have to reason. We don't need to fight. We don't need to insult our elders. We have to give them that respect. And in actual fact, whom will we respect if we cannot respect Dr. Shafiuna Sam Nujoma? We know there are warring concerns.
Yes.
During the liberation struggle, there were also those who were caught by the crossfire of the war.
Yeah.
War is not an easy exercise. We are talking about people losing their lives. Some people might be maimed and disappearing and so forth. War is war.
Yeah.
And it's an exercise that is carried by a huge number of people. One is sitting in Luanda, is commanding as a commander-in-chief. There are those who are at the battlefield, and there are those who... It's just a very huge responsibility. And with reconciliation that was also mentioned in the founding statement of our founding president, when he stated it categorically clear that we are extending a hand of help, I mean, of help and friendship to those who were caught by the crossfire of the war. That shows exactly that both sides were also in the process of the war. Both sides were doing something, some of the things that were not right. And the war is war. For those who have been in war, they have to understand what I mean.
Indeed. And when we speak of discipline, you know, respecting elders, Kalimbo Ipumbo, your colleague, your party member in parliament, he had a confrontation, the physical confrontation with with Natango Ithete. And what explanation did he give to the party? Of course, he's vice president of the party, but I'm sure he still accounts to the party as to events like that, to say, you know, this is actually what happened. What did he say happened in Parliament?
There is a visual video that we have looked at, and the way he was approached, and it was just a sudden attack on him. And as a disciplined and well brought up young parliamentarian, he adhered, however, because if he could not know or differentiate between the boxing rank and the parliament, he could he could fight there, but indeed he adhered. But just like you, a sudden attack on you, you have to react
in the heat of the moment.
However, remembering that, oh, I'm not in a boxing ring, I'm in a parliament, then you have to take to consider the fact that I'm in parliament. I have to behave as a parliamentarian. Indeed. And that had happened. And you know, there were provocations that were taking place. And you know, some of these things used to be well coordinated things. Somebody refused you a floor, and there's this other one here who is insulting you, and then there's somebody beside you who is bullying you. Now, you know, this is a coordinated exercise that is done purposefully in order to label you a different color.
Indeed. Before we go to some of the current issues happening in the country, Mr. Ndumbu, let me just ask you, I'm not very acquainted, I must be honest. Maybe it's my, I should have done better on this one and educate myself. But your party is, how diverse is the leadership of your party? I only know yourself. I know Mr. Kalimbo Ipumbu. I know Mr. The president himself, Epafras Nkwilongo. Who else is in the leadership of a party, and are they coming from the same tribal group as yourself, as the three of you, or do you have others from elsewhere?
The leadership of NEFF, you can easily even look at that through the result of election. NEFF have got no stronghold in Namibia, but the constituency for NEFF is Namibia. Although there was an EVM that was manipulating the election result, you could see the members of our Central Command team, can even Comrade Kasumi, it's not a Vambo for that matter. There's Comrade Swart, him also is not a Vambo, if I'm not only talking directly to specific small groups. And the ex-Comrade Shaduva is not a Kwambi for that matter, he's from Hangwena region. There's Comrade Jason, is from Ondonga side, it's not from the grouping of the three you mentioned at the beginning. And as we go on, this Comrade Kamberipa is from Maheke, it's not a Vambo, neither a Kwanyama or Ondonga, it's a Herero. I can mention, there are many. And only when people see that at the top, maybe in the second in command, they are from one tribal background, that does not mean that we are ethnic or either tribal organization. And our agenda is a very clear agenda to emancipate a Namibian economically.
No, I'm asking because tribal politics is a big subject in Namibia. Almost every party in this country has some very strong attachment to a particular tribal grouping, which is not what we want. Actually, we want to have a Namibia where political parties have an appeal across all tribal boundaries. And if you say that NEFF is doing well in that regard, we'll leave it to the viewers to judge. But let's go to the events, the current affairs. So,
and for that matter, the majority of the people in the top leadership of NEFF, they are non-Vambos, they are non-Kwambis. because only that some of our people are young, they go to further their study. Our Secretary for International Affairs is based in London, and that other one for education is in Russia. A young girl is a Herero also, and this other one is a Herero, the one for International Affairs. And you have heard those who have parted from the party, like the Kahiriris and the January, the Anan Vambos.
Yes.
And it gives you a clear indication that if one want to refer to the three, the president, vice president, and me, we are the only three in the top leadership. But the majority,
yes,
for one reason, they are non-Vambos. The majority of the people in the top leadership of NEFF, the Central Command team. And then, again, the Anan Kwambis, the majority, and the Vambos in the entire top leadership, there are only 5, which there's one from Mondonga, there's one from Kwanyama, and the rest, there's Namas, there's Damaras, there's Hereros, and Kavangos. That's how we were. And you remember at the beginning, and Chamba was also a Commissar for Health, who used to be a nurse in the vicinity of Furundu there. So you can see this a well set up type of leadership, and it's properly structured in such a way that it's a Namibianized, it's not a type of tribal or ethnic origin.
Okay, it's clear it's not a Kwambi party now. So now let's go to the current affairs. One of the things that people would want you to comment on, obviously, is the fish rot scandal. The President of the Republic on Sunday came out and said what he said. What is NEFF's general stance on this matter, and your stance in particular as a person also on the same matter?
Okay. I'm speaking on my own behalf and the rest of that of the leadership of NEFF.
Yes, actually.
We have been stating this time and again, as from the onset of the formation of this party, that we did not only start talking about the fish rot, there is also diamond rot.
Yes. And
you know, this EPL used to be just given by the people who are connected to the well-connected elite. And this have culminated into the fish. The fish is a very vital thing to Namibia, and it's a commodity that does not lose value. And at independence, I mean, prior to the independence of Namibia, during the launch of the liberation struggle, the visionary leaders of Namibia, the Atoibos, the Nuyomas, and others, they indicated it. Those of us who were aspired by them, we were reading books like The Battle from Namibia during our time when we go to school, and it's where we start to get this know-how of what is really going on in the country, why there is a war, why the people are asked to provide the IDs when they are passing Oshivelo or elsewhere. So, in actual fact, I want to indicate to you that our last election campaign last year, we were always singing that song loudly, that this type of quotas, we were against just fish quotas in general at the beginning. We were hammering much on that. That these fish quotas are just allocated to give an individual. To an extent that during the current prisoners, then who was first, some of the team that was groomed to be the leaders of Swapo, those who even were pushing away the others in the system, the likes of the Shangalas, you know, when they were dispute with the Ngurales and the Ampandas. And he became a law reform chief there, and the laws were changed like nobody's business because they got 2/3 majority. They only go through parliament for formality and to give power to the former comrade Esau, because you know he was in a trade union that time, was in a student organization. We were good colleagues as well. And this now have culminated into the situation whereby you got something that can generate funds to improve the living conditions of the Namibian people, but instead, this money was turned into the money to disrupt and to disorganize the entire country and to be used also for corruption and smuggling. So in actual fact, if you look at those people at open space in Wolf's Bay, some of them are already dead, some of them lost their wife, their houses, their children could not further their studies, some of them, their cars were taken away by the banks. Because of the quotas, those were deliberately taken. And when the workers are demonstrating, nobody's listening. Because the trade unions that we are having now in the country, they are Swapo trade unions. In the past, they were still Swapo trade union, but they are going to the different bosses. The owner of the companies, those who were catching fish, they were either whites or non-Namibians. But now, the owners, the leaders who are supposed to protect the workers, the leaders are Swapo leaders. They are members of parliament. They are maybe members of cabinet. And you go to the somebody who was supposed to protect the workers, is like the trade union and the labor commission. You go there, there are prominent Swapo people who does not listen to the workers. They only listen from the instruction up, but not otherwise. So it's really tantamounted to the very worst situation and frustrating situation that forced the people to just remain there because they see they got a case, they are right, but nobody can help them. Because now the whole thing is
the system is just blocked.
The system is just blocked all over. This is the reason why we wanted to correct Swapo to not to abuse the two-thirds majority that we gave them. However, we take another angle and derive that two-thirds majority we gave them because it was subjected to abuse. So this fish rot needs really to be tackled with agency and commitment. So we do not want this to be used as a throwing of messenger from opposition to ruling party. But we want this to be tackled directly. All people's names, those are involved. These people must be approached by the Anti-Corruption Commission and asked, Mr. Mandela Kapere, are you a beneficiary of the money from fish rot? An example I'm giving. How do you become a beneficiary to such an amount of money? Who give you the money? How? What is the purpose? Were you doing some work for the fish corps, or what is the problem? I mean, how come you become a beneficiary? Then he explains his position. Then it goes on like that. Then in the end, all those who are culprit, then they must also be brought to book, like others who are in custody now. So at the same time, the camp that is used to calm the hair of those who have been subjected to the Anti-Corruption Commission must apply both to the juniors and top officials. Because top officials now, like, they want to pay bail of the amount of millions. However, I know of one guy from Ashakati, my nearby township there, who was just suspected that he acquired a lot of wealthy money, vehicles, good house, and then all was forfeited by the state. Then it goes like that. I also want the government institution in place to do the same, to forfeit the properties of those who have involved in the fish rot scandal. Then this money, the first bunch of money must pay out those people who are laying there in Wolf's Bay, as well as paying those who have lost their, most probably they lost their husbands. To benefit from that money.
I'm saying that because you are reminding me of a call that I got last week from someone in Walvis Bay, one of the fishermen who lost their job. I don't know where he got my number from. And he called me and he was asking me if I was going to attend the press conference of the president on Sunday last week, and if I could put across a question to the president, whether what is, you know, these bail guarantees that are being made by ESAU and fitting out Kwikulipi and others who are saying, okay, you can take all my wealth and keep it while the trial is going on. So this guy was asking whether that wealth cannot be distributed among the fishermen who lost their job. So it's a very rough idea, but you can understand where it is coming from. You know, people have lost their livelihoods and whatnot. But let's conclude this interview, Mr. Ndumbu, by asking you that also connected to the fish rot, in the eyes of some, maybe not in my case particularly, but the transfer of Nelius Becker from the Criminal Investigations Division of the police to go and head the Forensics Division of the police. It has created a lot of speculation. People are saying it was to block him from pursuing the fish rot matter. And then we saw Lieutenant General Nditunga coming out and saying that Nelius Becker, the last time he was involved in anything related to fish rot was when he was at ACC. What is your reading into what has happened there?
As the leadership of the Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters, we have looked into that matter. And it's on that background that the president of the Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters asked me to come and have an interview with various medias and clear up this thing. He, in particular, Comrade Bafras Nkulongo, and the entire leadership, we are saying that this police officer must remain at his position until the conclusion of this fish rot scandal. We are calling upon Inspector General Sebastian Ndeitunga to put it on hold, and his entire staff to relook at that decision they have made and give chance to Mr. Bekel to conclude this. This is a very progressive exercise that have taken place in the eye of the global or the international community, that the laws in Namibia are functional, that the law have got teeth when you got the ministers in the custody who are found that they are involved in accepting bribes, and in fact these are the people who have been delocating quotas from the companies that were employing those people who are suffering now there. And in actual fact, that person will say they must just give that money to go and solve that problem. That is accurate. Because that money was not meant to be distributed through Sisana Manje's firm just to be given to people to be chopped out like this. This is money that was generated by those people who are working there in the fishing industry. But now this money come to be squandered, people just giving money left, right, west, east without care. As the money was, you don't know, I mean like a rain, just the rain was raining money.
Manna coming from heaven.
Yeah, that manna, that's not manna, it costs the sweets of the people who have been working in the fishing industry. So in actual fact, we are saying, Mr. Sebastian Ndeitunga, the Inspector General, please put it on hold, allow the investigation to go on with that officer or police officer, Mr. Bekel, because in the meantime, when you start changing them, then something might be cropping up. And prevention is better than cure. We are moving in the right direction with what happened so far, although we want much to be done for those who are outside, because the others who are inside, they are paining now because they know they are not the only culprit. There are a bunch of them outside. So we want them to be picked up one by one, to be approached by the Anti-Corruption Commission and the police involved. So then, in the end, you will see that it's not like those who are saying, no, Swapo is corrupt, blah, blah. But first, those individuals must be identified. It will be, looks like you take the Manchester United team, that the first 11 in the field, and if you finish them up, both have got red cards, then it's when you can say this is Manchester United. Because otherwise, if you are just one person get out, then you start saying, no, this is Manchester United is corrupt because they are playing, they are not following the rules of FIFA when they are playing soccer. But it's only one person.
Yes.
That is not right. They must be followed up one by one as their names are appearing, because everybody now in this country knows that the names of Arma Sankuyu is known even by my small daughters. But it used to be amongst the names of those beneficiaries from the money from Fish Road that have created a mess in this country. Indeed. Yeah.
Mr. Ndumbu, this is all time we have for this interview, but thank you very much for coming through. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you too.
Yeah. That is Abraham Ndumbu. He's the Commissar for Policy Research and Political Education for Namibia Economic Freedom Fighters, engaging us on a lot of issues that you have heard him talk about. Thank you for watching. Good night.